I want to do a shout out to Rick Levine because I've been obsessed with his podcast with you, and it really echoed what I already saw. So I just want to say, let all the astrologers unite in giving
Oh,
advice and wisdom for all of us to feel comfort in knowing that
thank
there's
you.
some rocky moments happening. So
Oh,
2025 is the first year. And as he said, there's never been a year like this before because all the outer planets are just dipping their toe in. It's not till 2026. I want to distinguish this. 2026 is when you really see the results of climate crisis, of the political atmosphere, of what's dealing with your psychology, of your financial world. That's when it will become very obvious. 2025 is like, remember when you go to the movies and they give you a preview and they just show you the highlights and you're like, I want to go see that. That's what this year's about. It's like a little bit of a awakening. So somewhere, I think it's May 25th to August 31st, Saturn, for the first time in 30 years, enters Aries. So that's going to occur, and I'm going to tell you more how that will affect you in Aries. But that's the indication because when it finishes in August, better known as September, it comes back in February 2026 and it doesn't leave. So sometimes planets, as he described, they go retrograde, they go backwards and forwards. It's the nature of how this reality is. Forward, 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 couple steps back. Forward, 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 two steps back. That's the planets. The outer planets do retrograde often, particularly Pluto spends probably 70% of the time going backwards. So these don't move quickly. Saturn takes 29, we all know Saturn return. I hope if you don't know it, you need to know it. At 28 to 30, at 58 to 60, we have Saturn comes back. It's called Saturn return to where it was when you were born. It takes 28 years for Saturn to go around. Well, every 28 to 29 years, Saturn enters Aries. That's going to be this year. And what that suggests for the collective, the last 2.5 years, and we're in it right now while you're watching this, is Saturn's been in Pisces. And what that meant was we were all like, Pisces is like this. Something's changing. I wonder what it is. I don't really get it. I'm a little confused. Oh, don't even think about it. So it's a dreamy kind of vague feeling where it floats around. We're all aware something's missing, something's clicking, something's changing. In the last 2.5 years, we know climate crisis is real. We know the political, but no one's really being the activist and no one stopped using plastic and no one's really done anything. So that's what the last 2.5 years were. We're like, you knew something was fishy, literal, Pisces fishy, but you didn't do anything about it. Well, Saturn enters Aries and now it's like, okay, this isn't just a theory. Now it's getting hot. It's entering fire. So the beginning, so 2025, for those few months that it enters 0 degrees, 1 degree, it then stops, goes back into Pisces by the end of 2025. And then the entrance, February 2026, now it's in full time. And that's when the fire, where you're saying, I was smelling fire for a little bit in the spring, but I see it now. So this is a year to prepare. This is the year to ask yourself, what do I need to do to adjust my nervous system for these very large changes? Because it's not just Saturn. Get ready. The outer planet Pluto, which takes 240 to 250 years to come back to itself, has just changed signs into Aquarius. That happened November 19th of 2024. That's going to last for 20 years. So here, watch. Saturn enters Aries somewhere in 2025, and then Pluto entered Aquarius in 2020, really 2024, but 2025, it's there for good. And Pluto talks about transformation brought to you by resistance. Like, I don't want to do it. Pluto's in Aquarius, AI. This is the word for AI and ET are brought to you by Pluto in Aquarius. Like new concepts, Pluto, transformation in Aquarius, futuristic concepts that we don't even know how to translate. But we're all smelling it. Oh, here comes whatever that chat thing's called. And here comes the fear about AI and how it will influence us. Oh, and now we're all using it in different ways. That's just the beginning. It's kind of like when we were kids. When I was little, the magic phone arrived and we could do this like button. You guys don't remember this. First, it was on the wall. We dialed. Then one day, the magic phone came where you pushed it. It was like super cool. Then one day, these big giant things came. Remember that? They were
yeah,
like
with the
telephones. You had to
antennas.
carry,
Yeah, with
yeah, with
the
the
big
antennas,
antennas.
and you'd carry them. Then came the day where these become a flip phone, and then came the day where. So we're at the entrance where that first push button phone started. This year with AI, it is present. The phones became present, but we didn't see the trajectory, did we? similar to AI. It begins in 2025. It's going to go exponential. It's Pluto in Aquarius. There's one other change. Now we added Saturn in Aries. That meant we had to stop pretending there was change. Saturn in Aries is in a fire sign saying your life lesson, all of us in 2025, especially 2026, is get up, do something, as compared to watching podcasts and theorizing and studying and reading. Now it's like action. That's going to be coming soon to your neighborhood. That's two of them. Neptune this year enters Aries as well. So for the last 7 years, Neptune was in Pisces. It echoed what I said. The dreamer, we all believed in mysticism. People were microdosing. They were taking drugs. They were talking about telepathy with this new podcast. I don't know if you know about the telepathy tapes, but it's gone viral. It's surpassed Rogan's podcast. Did you know that? So it's wild that the telepathy has entered. This was the influence. It's still there now. It's going to shift in 2025. Neptune will enter Aries, a new notion of how to do the male energy, because Saturn's going to be in Aries, Neptune's going to be in Aries, Pluto will be in Aquarius, and then Uranus. I love this one. The last 10 years, Uranus has been in Taurus, and it talks about the radical change for all of us of the notions of security. Uranus is radical change. It was found during the revolution. It talks about breaking up the old structures. It's similar to Pluto. Pluto's more like smashes your head. Uranus just makes you nervous. And it's been about Taurus, security, money, housing, buying land, investments. We've all been slightly nervous because the interest rate went crazy over the last era. Rent went crazy over the last era, the last 7 years. Buying a house is beyond most people's grip. This is Uranus and Taurus. It radically changed Taurus, our financial structure, and now it's entering Gemini. These are all happening in this year. This is why he said, I loved when he said this, we've never seen this before. Pluto entered Aquarius, Neptune entered Aries, Saturn entered Aries, and now Uranus is entering Gemini. They're all fire and air. Uranus and Gemini is going to mean our definition, Gemini, of how we think with the influence of AI. Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus and Gemini both being in air signs, the intellectual approach to what reality is changing. And we can't name it yet, which is a little disturbing.
But we know that it's shifting.
Well, and I'm here to warn you that this is the year where it's kind of like put your seatbelt on, but don't get worried because we're just beginning. By 2026, when you and I meet again next year at this time, it will be very obvious that the shifts from the American structured government to what's happening in Canada, what's happening in Mexico, what's happening in Korea, what's happening in Ukraine, all of that rock and roll will become very loud as compared to the news reports where we all sit at a distance. This is going to be affecting our economy. It's going to be affecting our psychology, and that's where I come in. So different than Rick Levine, I have a master's in clinical psychology, so I'm always looking at the human dimension going, how will these changes affect our anxiety, depression, addiction, loneliness? And if you're prepared, as we're going to do today when we go through each sign, which ones of you need to step up, which ones you need to relax, which ones you are going to get affected by 2025, which ones of you are skating. This is the gift of astrology, is it means that you can be prepared. Prophecy is the gift of astrology so that you know that each of you in different ways, like if you're an early degree Aquarius, if you're born January 20, what would it be? January 20th to about 23rd, 24th, and Pluto is sitting on your sun because Pluto just entered Aquarius. This year, it's going to be at 1 or 2 degrees, and you were born with your sun at 1 or 2 degrees Aquarius, then Pluto's going to come and affect you. That's what we call transits affecting the natal chart. Because the natal chart's like a tattoo. It never leaves. It's indelibly, I wish it was on your forehead. I wish when I met you, I could see everybody. Would that be cool? And or only people could see it if they had the means.
Hey there, Inspired Evolutionary. If you absolutely loved this, well then here's a full conversation with this guest on the Inspired Evolution podcast. Check it out now.